Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend the plenary session of the 15th BRICS Summit on Wednesday, to also hold bilateral meetings with fellow leaders on the sidelines. Addressing the BRICS Business Forum in South Africa, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India will be a growth engine for the world, asserts India will soon be a $5 trillion economy.
भारत आज विश्व की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है। जल्द ही भारत $5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बन जाएगा।
D-Day for India's lunar mission. Chandrayaan-3 will attempt to make soft landing on the moon's south pole on Wednesday. African Union suspends Niger from all its activities and prepares for sanctions. Reiterates the calls for coup leaders to immediately release the president from house arrest. India's Praggnanandhaa and world #1 Magnus Carlsen draw first game of chess World Cup final. Players return for day 2 of the final on Wednesday. It is the D-Day for India's historic mission to the moon. Chandrayaan-3 will attempt to make a soft landing on the moon's south pole on Wednesday. Experts say that the final 15 to 20 minutes will be crucial for the success of the mission. The powered descent is expected to commence around 5:45 p.m. in the evening IST, while the landing will take place around 6:04 p.m. IST. Russia's Luna 25 spacecraft crashed this weekend. It was also on its way to the moon's south pole. This means that Chandrayaan-3 could become the first to land on the moon's dark side. This is India's third lunar mission. Officials say that the aim is to study moon's geology, water resources, and potential for future human exploration. A quick reminder, you can watch the entire landing of Chandrayaan-3 live on ISRO's website, as well as on Doordarshan's national television this evening from 5:27 p.m. IST. Shortly after touchdown, one side panel of the Vikram lander will unfold, creating a ramp for the Pragyan rover. The sixth-wheeled rover seated within the lander module will descend from the lander's belly and, using navigation cameras, will scan its lunar surroundings. As it will roll, the rover will leave imprints of the tricolor and ISRO logo on the lunar regolith, that is the soil, making a mark of India on the moon. And as India nears its journey, know more about ISRO's Pragyan rover in this report ahead.
Showcases India's pioneering spirit on the lunar canvas. Right after landing, a spectacular moment unfolds. The side panel of the Chandrayaan-3 lander swings open, unveiling a ramp for the rover to roll out. Meet Pragyan, the rover with a mission. It emerges from the lander's belly, ready to drive down the ramp and begin its lunar exploration. But wait, there is more. Pragyan's rear wheels are carving history. They are leaving behind imprints of ISRO and India's national emblem, quite literally, symbolizing India's presence on the moon. Pragyan is marking the lunar surface with pride. With a mission life of 1 lunar day or 14 Earth days, Pragyan is on a tight schedule to uncover lunar mysteries. And if Chandrayaan-3 triumphs, India will claim its spot as the first to conquer the lunar south pole. Let's cheer for Chandrayaan-3 as it paves the way for India's historic lunar journey. With camera person CK Ashok, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Bangalore.
Aisha Khanam is joining us with more from ISRO headquarters, and also our correspondent Dibendu Mondal is joining us from Nehru Planetarium. We'll talk to both of them. But first, Aisha, coming to you. You're there at the ISRO headquarters, the center of action for the day today. Let us, understand from you, how is the excitement there, the preparations in place? Is the stage all set? We want to live these early moments of the launch, before the launch, in fact, with you there from Karnataka. Let us know more.
Well, Preeti, it is excitement all here at ISRO's ice track, which is the telemetry and tracking center. This is the command center. This is the mission control room in Bangalore, and it is from here that all the commands are being given to Chandrayaan-3, and this is being tracked from ice track. This is in Pina, and yesterday we took a closer look at the operations, and we saw the mission control room is full of activity, full of excitement. But what I saw was interesting was that there is no tension, or there is no sense of doubt on the face of any scientist there, because they are all excited. They are confident about the fact that this integration, this configuration of Chandrayaan-3 is a successful one, and they are very positive about the final moments. But still, the last 15 minutes of terror still leads to butterflies in the stomach. All the scientists say that though all the redundancy measures have been taken, though all the margins have been taken to see that in case some eventuality occurs, Chandrayaan-3 is equipped to self-correct and automate itself to move ahead and make a soft landing. But still, the last 15 minutes is a moment of terror, and all the scientists look forward to that, and that is when all the final operations will be given. The rough braking phase, then the soft braking phase will begin. Then the last hovering of Chandrayaan on the moon is also a very interesting aspect, very interesting phase. And then the speed of Chandrayaan as it lands on the surface of the moon will have to be controlled. This is the most tricky moment for the scientists, because this is here that they have to calibrate the velocity so that it lands with right precision, and it lands with the right integrations and configurations that they have given to CH3. So there are a lot of advanced systems integrated in Chandrayaan-3, and the scientists hope that this will lead to a successful launch around 6:05, and that, as I said, there is a lot of excitement, and we saw a desk of the youngsters who are controlling the rover. These are the youngsters, the scientists, the young scientists from ISRO will be controlling this little rover, the robo, which will walk on the moon surface, and it will conduct important tests, important scientific experiments, which it is configured for, because it will have to study the seismic activity on the moon, and also the presence of water molecules. There are a lot of experiments assigned to rover as well. So this will be the most interesting aspect as rover walks down with its tiny feet on the surface of the moon. So today the sun will rise on the moon, and this will be the time when when Chandrayaan CH3 mission, that is the lander Vikram, will make a landing, and then perhaps he will first say hello and good morning to the sun there, and then its solar panels will open
Yes.
up, and then it will take some time, and then all the missions will be activated, and then we will see India writing history on history in the space, and this will be a milestone.
Right, Aisha, very
India
nicely
will
put
venture
by
to the
you
South Pole.
that we will see the sun on the moon today. But I'll take that forward to Dibendu. Dibendu, we had a detailed report of yours earlier in the bulletins, wherein you talked of the preparations which have been put in place at the Nehru Planetarium. Let us get more on that. Are youngsters also allowed to be part of the streaming of the landing of Chandrayaan-3 on the moon today? What special arrangements have been made?
Yes, good morning, Preeti. Of course, there'll be a lot of space enthusiasts, youngsters, school children who will be part and witness to the history in the making. Chandrayaan-3 will be landing on the moon's south pole, and here at the Nehru Planetarium, space enthusiasts are making their way in here since morning. There have been students and school students, space enthusiasts who have been coming here, and there are these models of, the Vikram lander, the Praggnanandhaa rover, which will be landing on the moon's south pole, and this will be an historic feat which not only 1.4 billion people of India but also millions across the globe will be waiting and watching how India unfolds the mystery, the dark mystery of the moon's south pole. So it is an interesting event, a historic event, a milestone for India's space history. And with time there'll be screenings across several hours in the Nehru Planetarium throughout the day, and also from here the live telecast of ISRO's landing will be telecasted for the visitors as well as for space enthusiasts who will be visiting here throughout the day.
All right, so the excitement is there everywhere in the country, be it Delhi or for that matter, be it Karnataka. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us this morning. We'll come back to you again during the day to get more as the moment, as we draw closer to the moment. Thank you as of now for joining in. All right, so we had inputs coming in from our correspondents and analysis coming in from our correspondents who talked of how important and crucial is the day, not only for just India, but also it will be history in the making in the field of space exploration. Also, the upcoming lunar landing is the latest step for the Indian Space Research Organization since the first Chandrayaan blasted off in 2008. DD India correspondent Amit Mukherjee has filed this report.
3, 2, 1, 0.
It's India's latest space odyssey. Chandrayaan 3 taking off nearly 6 weeks ago on July the 14th. The blast-off was perfect. The Indian Space Agency's craft lifting off from Sriharikota heading for orbit, carrying the lunar module Vikram for its ambitious mission. After several orbits of the Earth and the Moon, the 40-day mission is now at its penultimate stage. As Vikram made the last few passes around the Moon, the onboard systems were engaged in last-minute self-checks. Vikram has been orbiting the Moon since Sunday at 6,000 kilometers per hour. And that's a challenge for the landing. There's no atmosphere on the Moon, so deploying parachutes to slow the descent isn't possible. But to land softly means slowing that 6,000 kilometers an hour to almost zero. And it also means making sure what it's landing on, as the Moon's south pole is covered in boulders and craters.
Even with the two-engine failure, we will still be able to land this time. We have made sure that capacity exists, the algorithms are capable of handling it, and we designed the whole process even with two-engine. Now it will continue to send the pictures during the landing process. We will be able to get them immediately.
If it's successful, India will only be the 4th country to achieve a soft landing on the Moon after the US, the former Soviet Union, and China. But that's just the first goal. Next is a long list of scientific experiments spanning 2 weeks, studying the Moon's atmosphere and digging into the surface to learn more about its minerals. This may tell scientists whether people could eventually live on the Moon. But the Chandrayaan story is a long one, in distance and time. The program started 24 years ago under the former Chief of India's Space Agency, K. Kasturi Rangan. Chandrayaan 1 was the first Indian lunar probe. It was launched by ISRO in 2008 and operated for almost a year. The Chandrayaan 2 mission was even more complex in terms of both technology and aims. It was launched 11 years later in 2019 from the same space center, Sriharikota, later named Satish Dhawan. The lunar orbiter carried out 8 major experiments and a lot was learned. This mission is built on everything the space agency discovered in those first 2 missions, including critical details about the Moon's surface, underground facts, and the atmosphere. As Vikram is making the final maneuvers and gearing up for the tasks ahead, the world is watching, waiting to see if India is able to initiate its mission to explore the dark mysteries of the Moon. In New Delhi, Amit Mukherjee, DD India.
All right, so that was an extensive report on ISRO's journey so far. But India's space technology has made remarkable strides, with the nation's space research organization leading the way. From launching satellites for communication, navigation and Earth observation to successful Mars and Moon missions, India has showcased its prowess in space exploration. But why is space technology important for any country? Palak Sharma gets us this report.
From India's first satellite, Aryabhat, launched in 1975, to the most recent launch last year, India's space journey has spanned 48 years and over 150 satellites. But why is space tech so important? Because it's of national importance. For better communications, satellite networks for defense, to predict weather and natural disasters, and for other science-based missions.
You wake up in the morning, you check the weather, you are using a satellite. You go to an ATM, take out your money, you are using a satellite. You move, you've come to this place, you have used Google, which is again aided by space. A farmer in a village somewhere, checking if there would be rain or what is the right time to put his plant, uses again space technology. Space technology today has reached every part of our system.
In recent months, the world has seen many natural hazards and severe weather events. Using environmental satellites to observe the Earth from space is one of the key tools in forecasting weather, analyzing climate and monitoring hazards worldwide. India uses the INSAT 3DR, an advanced weather satellite built by the Indian Space Agency ISRO, to get weather-related details and search and rescue information. Satellites can save lives. Cyclone Biparjoy hit India and neighbouring countries in June this year. Because of the satellite data, advanced prediction of the cyclone ensured a record low death toll.
The major breakthrough came in India with the launching of the meteorological satellites in 1983. Since 1983, we went on monitoring the weather systems.
We must be second to none in the application of advanced technologies to the real problems of man and society. These are the words of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. He is regarded as one of the greatest space scientists of India. He founded the Indian Space Research Organization, and his words still resonate today at the National Space Agency of India. ISRO currently has the world's largest constellation of remote sensing satellites. It has developed many medium lift launch vehicles, rocket engines and satellite systems, launching hundreds of domestic and foreign satellites and many missions to explore deep space.
The reason you can see and hear me right now are satellites. While it may seem like a topic that is beyond our understanding and realm, the truth is that satellites affect all of our everyday lives in a very significant way. Palak Sharma in New Delhi for DD India.
All right, so that was it about the extensive coverage on the landing of Chandrayaan 3 today on the moon, the soft landing to be precise. We'll keep you updated, but up next, still to come on DD India News Hour, plenary session to take place on day 2 of the BRICS summit, leaders to discuss expansion of the forum. Indian Coast Guard signs agreement with Philippine counterparts to enhance maritime cooperation. The Indian government adds more sugar to the markets to help ensure reasonable prices. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Now let's get you updates on the 15th BRICS Summit in Johannesburg in South Africa. First day of the 15th BRICS Summit on Tuesday was characterized by how member states will improve trade with agriculture and clean energy topping the agenda. The main attraction of the day were in fact the addresses from the BRICS leaders, and addressing the BRICS Business Forum, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi asserted that India will soon become a $5 trillion economy. Looking ahead, BRICS leaders are expected to discuss whether new members will be allowed to join the bloc.
Day one of the Johannesburg summit began with the visiting leaders participating in the Business Forum. The only exception was Chinese President Xi Jinping, who chose to skip the meeting and was represented by his Commerce Minister. Russian President Vladimir Putin was the only one to join over video link because he did not come to Johannesburg. While all other leaders showcased examples from their country's development journey, Prime Minister Modi highlighted the promise India holds, poised to become a $5 trillion economy soon.
वर्तमान समय में भी कोविड महामारी, तनावों और विवादों के बीच विश्व आर्थिक चुनौतियों से जूझ रहा है। ऐसे समय में ब्रिक्स देशों के एक बार फिर महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका है। फ्रेंड्स, वैश्विक अर्थव्यवस्था में उथल-पुथल के बावजूद भारत आज विश्व की फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग मेजर इकोनॉमी है। जल्द ही भारत $5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बन जाएगा। इस बात में कोई संदेह नहीं कि आने वाले वर्षों में भारत विश्व का ग्रोथ इंजन होगा।
And India's aspiration of becoming a developed nation by 2047. He invited businesses from the BRICS countries to come and be a part of India's development journey and benefit from it. He spoke about how India is taking steps to become a global manufacturing hub in areas like solar energy, wind energy, electrical vehicles, green hydrogen and green ammonia. He also highlighted that how India is using UPI to make the most transactions around the world, with even street vendors using UPI, and how now countries like the UAE, Singapore and France are partnering with India's UPI. He highlighted India's vision of Make in India, Make for the World, especially in areas like IT, telecom, fintech, AI, semiconductors, etc. Finally, the Prime Minister called on the leaders of the BRICS to develop mutual trust and transparency and strengthen partnership between the global South.
मैं आप सभी को भारत की विकास यात्रा में शामिल होने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं। कोविड महामारी ने हमें रेजिलिएंट और इंक्लूसिव सप्लाई चेन्स के महत्व को सिखाया है। इसके लिए आपसी विश्वास और पारदर्शिता बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। हम एक दूसरे की ताकतों को जोड़कर पूरे विश्व, खासतौर पर ग्लोबल साउथ के कल्याण में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे सकते हैं।
Later, the leaders attended the leaders' retreat, where important issues like strengthening partnership between the global South, climate change, cross-border terrorism, reform of multilateral lending institutions, etc. was discussed. With cameraman YK Loknath, this is Amritpal Singh for DD India in Johannesburg.
Shubhendu is joining us to get us more. Shubhendu, just a while back we showed the extensive report on what transpired in on the first day of the Johannesburg summit. Let us get more details from you as to how is the day planned, the second day of the summit planned today.
Right. Good morning, Preeti from Johannesburg. Day one, as we saw, focused on the vision and the kind of best practices that countries have had in their respective domain. Day two is going to be focusing on the core issues of the BRICS, whether it is expansion, whether it is working towards a common payment system, key challenges that BRICS has been dealing with over the years since its inception, whether it is in the area of climate change, human resource development. There is also Africa outreach and the manner in which new members would be taken in. That would be stored for the last day, the third day of the BRICS summit. But day two is going to be focused on the core issue, the plenary session. There are going to be several rounds of closed-door talks that the leaders would engage in. And that would take forward BRICS vision in the 15th edition, the manner in which in volatile economic situation, how can these emerging economies once again come together and support one another in the development journey?
All right, Shubhendu, thank you for joining in. That was our correspondent Shubhendu getting us more details on what is to be taken up today on the second day of the Johannesburg summit. We'll keep you updated and posted. Meanwhile, we'll take a look at other stories making it to the headlines. A state assembly session has been called by Governor Anusia Ueke in the northeastern state of Manipur. The session has been called to discuss the ongoing violence in the state and also explore ways to solve the issue through a peaceful and amicable dialogue. The Indian Coast Guard has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Philippine Coast Guard to enhance maritime cooperation. It aims to enhance bilateral maritime cooperation between the two nations for ensuring safe, secure and clean seas in the region. To cater to the high demand for sugar during the upcoming festive season, the Indian government on Tuesday announced an additional allotment of 200,000 tons of sugar to the domestic quota for the month of August. The decision takes into account the unexpected surge in demand during the festivals such as Onam, Raksha Bandhan and Janmashtami. Still to come on DD India News Hour, real estate tycoon Sweta Thavisin endorsed by the King as Thailand's 30th Prime Minister. At least 16 people reported dead in central Mexico. Some 36 passengers were injured after a bus carrying migrants crashed. A one-of-its-kind treat, rare spotless giraffe delights visitors at BRICS Zoo in the United States. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A quick look at the top stories once again. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to attend plenary session of 15th BRICS Summit on Wednesday. Also set to hold bilateral meetings with fellow leaders. Addressing the BRICS Business Forum in South Africa, Prime Minister Narendra Modi says India will be the growth engine for the world, asserts that India will soon be a $5 trillion economy. D-Day for India's lunar mission. Chandrayaan 3 will attempt to make soft landing on the moon's south pole on Wednesday. African Union suspends Niger from all its activities and prepares for sanctions. Reiterates the calls for coup leaders to immediately release the president from house arrest. India's Praggnanandhaa and world number 1 Magnus Carlsen draw first game of the Chess World Cup final. Players return for day 2 of the final on Wednesday. And for all of those who are joining us right now at the News Hour, let us tell you about the top story, the big story we are tracking at DD India. Chandrayaan 3 will be attempting to make a soft landing on the moon's south pole on Wednesday. At a time when the world is competing for space race, India's space journey has seen remarkable growth. The Biendu model gets us this report on the journey of global space exploration.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Half a century ago, history was made. Neil Armstrong becoming the first man to walk on the moon. This changed how the world looked at space, the moon seeming more closer to Earth than ever before, and it was a victory for the United States over the Soviet Union. Between 1957 and 1975, both the United States and the Soviet Union were engaged in a fierce race to the space. Even though the Soviets sent the first man into space in 1961, the race to the moon was won by the United States. The Soviets could not land a man to the moon. The space race widened to other countries like Canada, Japan, France and China, who started their own space exploration in the 1960s and 70s. In 1975, in a surprise development, both the superpowers agreed to cooperate on space exploration. An Apollo shuttle docked with the Soyuz mission in the outer space. The crews greeted each other with a handshake that ended the last leg of the space race. A new era of space race and space exploration began during the early 2000s. Many new countries like that of India also entered into the foray. The United States was now up against the emerging superpowers such as China and India, as well as its old rival, Russia. India's space journey has seen a remarkable growth, from carrying rocket heads on a bicycle to now aiming to land on the moon's south pole. The Indian Space Research Organization, the leading agency for India's space program, has come a long way. But there are still dangers ahead. The Russian mission failed when its spacecraft crashed just days after taking off. It's hoped India's Chandrayaan 3 will make a soft landing on the moon's south pole. This will be a historic new chapter in India's space story. The interest in outer space in the recent time is not just limited to government agencies, but also has drawn keen interest from private players. There have been many new startups in the field of space and space exploration in the recent times. Organizations like SpaceX and Blue Origin have launched and tested private flights into space. Billionaire Jeff Bezos recently made a round trip to the space. This has opened the possibility of space tourism in the future.
Private players are taking a lead into it. As you mentioned that about the Elon Musk of the SpaceX and Blue Origin by the Jeff Bezos and Charles Bronson, the Virgin. So a lot of corporate is taking space in that direction. Like Chandrayaan mission, I've been told that there are about 80% private sector companies are involved into making the Chandrayaan 3.
The advancement of technology, growing interest from private players, and a rise in hundreds of startups in the space sector has brought outer space even more closer to Earth. Dibyendu Mondal's report for DD India.
And now, from one top story, let us tell you about the other big story we are tracking at DD India. The 15th BRICS summit enters its second day in Johannesburg. The summit host, South Africa, has brought together leaders from Brazil, China, India and Russia. A central focus of the summit will be the possible expansion of BRICS. Leon Senyange tells us what is expected in Wednesday's discussions.
The opening day of the BRICS summit provided broad discussions on the opportunities the BRICS bloc has to offer. But the bigger discussion takes place Wednesday when the BRICS leaders converge to review the gains made so far, but also the prospects of the bloc. Expansion will be the major talking point as the bloc is becoming more attractive because of its economic strength and potential.
As we celebrate the 15th anniversary of BRICS, trade between BRICS countries totaled some $162 billion last year. Foreign investment has played an important role in the growth of BRICS economies. Total annual foreign direct investment into BRICS countries is 4 times greater than it was 20 years ago.
Trading cities.
As many as 20 nations have formally applied to become BRICS members, some including Argentina, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and even Iran. South Africa, China, and Russia appear to share optimism about expanding the bloc. India says it enters those discussions with an open mind. The BRICS leaders will, however, have to come to a consensus to admit new members. Whether or not to do that is one of the much-awaited decisions expected from the summit. Leon Senyange in Johannesburg, reporting for DD India.
All right, staying with the African continent, the African Union has suspended Niger from all of its institutions and activities until the effective restoration of constitutional order following last month's coup. The suspension announcement was the Council's first public communication since it met earlier this month to discuss Niger's crisis. Suspension means Nigerian representatives from the head of state down can no longer vote on African Union proposals or participate in the organization's committees or working groups. The Council's action was part of a standard playbook the AU and regional bodies have taken in response to coups elsewhere in Africa. Japan will begin releasing treated radioactive water from the tsunami-hit Fukushima nuclear power plant into the Pacific Ocean from Thursday. The highly controversial move has drawn sharp criticism from neighboring countries. Hong Kong has decided to indefinitely ban most Japanese seafood from Thursday if Japan goes ahead with its plan. China is also protesting the release, but former opponents, South Korea, now say that it meets scientific safety standards. Locals too continue to express resentment, saying the government has not won their trust. As of now, the energy company, Tokyo Electric Power Company, has begun moving treated wastewater for testing and monitoring. Chris Gilbert is joining us from Tokyo. Chris, good morning. Now that it is final that Japan is releasing the radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean on Thursday, let us know any special arrangements or preparations that are being made in the run-up to the release?
Yeah, the process is already underway. TIPCO, the company which ran the nuclear power plant, and the company which is discharging this water, they have released the first volumes of treated water into a dilution tank. Not a lot, just about 1 metric ton of water into a dilution tank, and then they have mixed it with about 1,000 tons of pure seawater, non-contaminated seawater. And this is to dilute the treated water and lower the concentration of tritium, the nuclide which remains after treatment, so it is safe in the esteem of Japan's government, of TIPCO and the IAEA, to be discharged into the ocean. They have sampled this mixture. They are finding out the results this afternoon or this evening Japan time, just to make sure that it is within the safety range that they are predicting. And if the weather cooperates and the samples go look good, then this plan is set to begin tomorrow morning.
All right, Chris, also get us more details as to how much is the volume of this radioactive water that has to be released into the Pacific Ocean, and also we believe that this will be done in phases. Spell out more details on this.
Yeah, it will be done in phases. The first phase is going to take 17 days. They're not going to just open a gate and release it all immediately. It is going to take a long time, and it is going to be done in increments. And the first phase is just a very small amount of water. It is going to be one tank. There are about 10,000 or so tanks of this treated water at the site, which is now at 98% capacity. And after the first 17-day phase, if that all goes successfully, they are going to move on to the next phase, which is going to be a higher volume of water. This whole time they are going to be monitoring the release and feeding this live to the TIPCO website. The IAEA has an office at the building, and they are going to be constantly monitoring this as well to make sure there's no negative effects to marine organisms or to the environment. This is going to take a long time, and it's not entirely clear what the consequences are going to be over the next 30 or 40 years. So there will be strict monitoring over all of these phases.
All right, Chris, thank you for joining in with those inputs. So that was Chris Gilbert telling us more details as to how Japan goes ahead with the release of radioactive water into the Pacific Ocean. And from Japan, in Asia, we now turn focus to central Mexico, where at least 16 people died in a road accident. A total of 52 passengers were traveling on the bus when it collided with a freight truck. Officials say more than 30 people were injured. Based on the initial reports, over 47 passengers had been on board, with the majority believed to be migrants from Venezuela. Texan authorities have installed concertina wire fencing along the border with Mexico in an effort to keep migrants from entering the U.S. In recent months, the state has put fencing and roads along the riverbanks in a contentious effort to deter migration from Mexico. The U.S. state has also installed orange buoys in the Rio Grande River. The Department of Justice of Mexico has sued Texas, arguing that Texas in fact installed them without proper federal approvals and also studies of their impact on public safety and the environment. And now we'll get you details of the weather woes that are being witnessed across the world. A group of scientists has found that climate change caused by humans has made Canada's wildfire season significantly worse. The country is currently experiencing its worst fire season on record. DD India correspondent Ira Spitzer reports from San Francisco.
Scientists with the group World Weather Attribution concluded that the hot, windy, and dry conditions in eastern Canada this year were twice as likely to occur because of greenhouse gases caused by burning fossil fuels. Wildfires have already forced tens of thousands of Canadians to flee their homes this year and created poor air quality as far south as the U.S. city of Atlanta. So far, nearly 14 million hectares have burned, almost double the previous record set in 1989. Wildfires are common in Western Canada, but this year has seen fires sweep through the eastern provinces of Nova Scotia, Quebec, and parts of Ontario. The analysis focused on northern Quebec, which has seen much more wildfire activity so far this year than normal. Researchers looked at what they call the Fire Weather Index, which takes into consideration factors such as temperature, humidity, wind speed, and precipitation. The authors then used computer models to compare the real world with a hypothetical one that hasn't been transformed by decades of greenhouse gas emissions caused by burning fossil fuels. The report estimates that eastern Canada now has a 4 to 5% chance in any given year of experiencing high fire risk conditions as bad or worse than this year's. It also found that climate change made the severity of Quebec's fire season through July about 50% more intense. The research hasn't yet been through the peer review process. World Weather Attribution scientists typically publish their findings shortly after extreme weather events. Ira Spitzer, reporting in San Francisco for DD India.
British Columbia's Premier David Eby has visited areas devastated by Canada's wildfires. The province imposed a state of emergency last week, giving officials more power to deal with fire risks. The government officials urge residents living in the evacuation alert areas to take immediate action. Also, wildfires have prompted evacuation orders in northern Turkey. The fires have resulted in the suspension of travel from the Aegean Sea to the Sea of Marmara. Hundreds have been evacuated from 6 villages in the Çanakkale region so far. And wildfires also raged through the western town of Lak near Albania. Firefighters and the army battled to keep the flames away, threatening the homes. Despite the deployment of 50 soldiers, officials say that the challenging terrain makes it difficult to put out the fire. Albania has charged 14 individuals with starting wildfires in July alone, an offence that carries a maximum 15 years prison sentence. That was about weather updates from across the world, and now we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world again. Thailand's king on Wednesday endorsed Srettha Thavisin as the country's new prime minister. Srettha won the backing of 2/3 of the parliament to become the 30th prime minister of Thailand. His victory paves the way for Pheu Thai party to form a new coalition government, bringing an end to 3 months of political deadlock. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has congratulated Srettha Thavisin on his election win. Also in Thailand, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra was hospitalized after suffering a health problem on his first night in jail. A prison official on Wednesday announced that Thaksin was transferred to a hospital over concerns about his heart and high blood pressure. Thaksin was jailed upon returning to the country on Tuesday after 15 years in exile. All 8 people trapped in a broken cable car in Pakistan were rescued on Tuesday in a unique rescue operation that lasted more than 15 hours. 7 children and 1 man were stranded about 900 feet in the air after one of the cable lines carrying the car snapped while they were crossing a river canyon. Army officials have called it an extremely dangerous and difficult operation. Voting begins in Zimbabwe on Wednesday to elect a new president. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has approved 11 candidates. The current president, ZANU-PF's octogenarian Emmerson Mnangagwa, became the president in 2018 after a coup ousted former leader Robert Mugabe in 2017. 1/6 of the registered electorate are first-time voters. A rare and unique giraffe has been born at a zoo in the United States. The baby giraffe has no spots on her body, unlike most of her species. Born on July 31st, she is the only solid-colored giraffe in the world. The last known recorded spotless giraffe was born in a zoo in Japan in 1972. And we're heading for a short break, but still to come on DD India News Hour. On the other side of the break, US stocks turned lower, marked by bank stocks tanking after several lenders were downgraded. Asian markets replicate the sentiment. Apart from chess, all eyes on India's performance at the Badminton World Championships, where Lakshya Sen will now play the 3rd round on Thursday.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching the DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. Let's take a look at business updates now. US stocks turned lower on Tuesday following disappointing earnings from some household names. Bank stocks also turned south after several lenders were downgraded. Sally Patterson has more on this.
In the latest blow to the US banking sector, S&P Global Ratings has downgraded 5 banks. This comes just 2 weeks after Moody's Investors Service downgraded several lenders and said it was reviewing ratings on some bigger banks as well. In other news, shares in department store Macy's dropped on Tuesday after it reported its second quarter earnings. It actually beat expectations, with net revenue coming in at $5.13 billion, higher than analysts' estimates of $5.1 billion. But the retailer highlighted a decline in credit card revenues and said customers are spending less on goods and more on services. Macy's stock closed the day down 14%. Meanwhile, Dick's Sporting Goods stock tumbled 23.5% after the retailer cut its earning outlook for the year. The sporting goods giant missed Wall Street forecasts for the second quarter. It closed the day down 24%. The Dow was down 0.5%, the S&P 0.3%, and the Nasdaq ended up 0.1%. Sally Patterson in New York, reporting for DD India.
On to Asian markets now. Asian markets on Wednesday traded in the narrow range as sentiment remains shaky due to Japan's stubbornly bleak manufacturing indicators. Data on Wednesday showed Japan's factory activity shrank for a third straight month in August, offering the first glimpse into the health of global manufacturing this month. Chinese shares gave up some gains with blue chips. Also, Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index eased 0.1% after jumping 1%. The oil prices eased in early trade on Wednesday, weighed down by fears that US interest rates could stay higher for longer and economic growth could slow further in the top crude importer, China, and also that in fact would hurt the fuel demand. Brent crude dipped to $83.86 a barrel, while the US West Texas Intermediate crude was at $79.56 a barrel. Both benchmarks lost about 0.5% on Tuesday. And from business updates, we now turn focus to sports updates. The first game of the FIDE World Cup final between India's Praggnanandhaa and world number 1 Magnus Carlsen ended in a draw after 35 moves. Both the players will return for game 2 of the final today. If the match is not decided in the second game, then the tiebreakers will set in. Praggnanandhaa had stunned world number 3 Fabiano Caruana on Monday via a tie break in the semi-finals to set up the clash with Carlsen. From chess to badminton now, India's Lakshya Sen has reached the third round of the Badminton World Championships. The Indian shuttler eased past Korea's Jeong Hyuk-jin in straight sets on Tuesday. Sen defeated his opponent 21-11, 21-12 in a match that lasted only 36 minutes in Copenhagen. Former champion PV Sindhu's wretched run continues as she bowed out of the World Championships. The most successful Indian at the World Championships with 5 medals, Sindhu lacked any sting in her attack and went down tamely 14-21, 14-21 to Nozomi Okuhara of Japan. It is the first time in her career that Sindhu, seeded 16th, has failed to reach the quarterfinals at the prestigious tournament. Sindhu has struggled to maintain her level of play and has crashed out in the opening round in 7 different events this year. Her best performance this year was reaching the semis at the Malaysian Masters and the Canadian Open. Still with badminton, in another men's singles game, HS Pranoy took just 44 minutes to mow down Indonesian Chico Ora Dwi Wardowo in the state sets. The Indian shuttler beat Chico by 21-9, 21-14 to bag the last victory for India on Tuesday. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.